what's going to happen now with roles, now that we have Gen AI coming in and this accelerating need to run the Formula F1, there's a velocity to content systems that are getting more intuitive and intelligent all of the time. But how do we make our organizations do that, with our design of humans and systems? So an impossible question to answer at the last 5 minutes of our conversation. So maybe just everybody provide a couple of sentences of advice on how to navigate role, people, and organizational design challenges in this rapidly shifting landscape that we're all laying in now. Michael, I'd love to start with you.
I'll just say that there's multiple roles, so there's no one solution that's appropriate for everyone. But essentially the fork is, do you want content to be part of your digital transformation, which is going to be, a much more central organizational-wide type role, or is it going to be tied to a specific product and service? And you need both these things. We've been talking this whole conversation about the center and the edge, but just both those roles are going to be necessary, and you just need to figure out who's going to fund a particular activity, and that's going to determine what you call that role and who it reports to.
One thing that's on my mind is, regardless of your role, to think about AI, all the fuss is about generative AI, and there's huge amounts of use for that, obviously, in our stuff, all of our lines of work, anything you look at, and I've looked at it all in the last 6 months, there's something that Gen AI can do. But to think about not so much as the creation part of it, but still have the humans do that uniquely human thing that they do, and then use generative AI to do stuff like summaries and lists and social media posts and that kind of stuff. But the other thing to think about, I think, is what I call consumptive AI, to think about what you've already, and we're all structured content fans here, I think, and to take that structure that you have and whatever metadata is associated with it and get creative about how you might reuse it beyond the ways that you originally thought about reusing it when you connected it. So I just think about using, be aware and be on top of the generative AI stuff, but to think more broadly about it as well.
Michael and Larry made great points, and I particularly like the point around consumptive AI, and I think that's also related to something that has been an issue in content management for a long time, is just the management part in content management, and a lot of tasks you're creating some content. This looks like a lot like some content that somebody created 6 months ago. Do you want to take a look at that? Do you want to reuse that? Do you want to make a copy of that? There's a lot of those types of functions. Now, how this relates to roles, I agree with Michael. It's going to be messy. There is possibly going to be some type of role of this person that's putting some of those governance and those road guardrails in place. Is that going to have a new title, or is that just going to inherit one of the titles that exists already? Who knows? I think a lot of it is probably going to come from the tooling itself. It might make some of these things more obvious. If there's an interface around putting those guardrails in place, then a role name will probably come out of it. If it's something that somebody's doing on the back end to make some of these connections happen, then there probably won't be a clear role. It'll probably be a combination of roles. I think the best example of that currently is, the fact that content modeling, which to me is a business task or an information architect task or whatever, is the majority of time done by developers. And I think we're going to see that a continuation of that trend with the types of things that need to be done with these, content pipelines with generative AI.
Thank you. Yeah, there's so much in that topic. Nicole.
This is a great question, and I love what everybody has said here. So I'll add a little something coming back to what Michael said much earlier in the conversation about the sort of the spot teams brought together to work on particular problems, except that that's kind of what we're doing all the time. And the pragmatist in me says, let's lean into that. I think the way that we're going to address this is by building multifunctional, cross-functional teams with a variety of complementary and distinct areas of expertise, and being very clear on what problems we're trying to solve or what challenges we're trying to get those teams to tackle, because we can't do this in isolation from some sort of business case or some sort of problem that we're trying to solve or some sort of value that we're trying to generate. And I think this is where we're really going to get a better understanding of what we're trying to do. And that's going to make defining the roles and probably getting some better, more consistent structure around them to happen. Because I think number one, there's never any sort of perfect steady state organization structure that you can put in place that's just going to magically work over the long term. Sadly, that's why consultants have, such long and venerable careers. But I think it's particularly challenging right now because we are in the midst of some really significant change. And as much as we might have some great thinking about what needs to change and how it might need to change, we really don't have the answers yet. We don't have that clarity. We're in the midst of this and we don't yet see all the patterns of where we're trying to get to. So the only way that we're going to be able to figure that out in any meaningful way is to experiment. And I think this is a prime opportunity to do that. And to borrow from what several people have already said, yes, we need to use the tools. We absolutely need to be understanding how and where generative AI, among other things, can actually lend itself very usefully to our objectives. But we really need to be capitalizing on that human creativity to understand and interpret what we're trying to do and to find different ways of making that happen. And I think for me, that's the really fun and exciting part of all of this. So hopefully that's something that more businesses are able to capitalize on as well.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's a great spot for us to wrap up. This great human experiment that is underway as well, even as AI is coming in to work with us as humans and to be part of our workflows and processes and technologies. What is the human design? What is the organizational design? What are the processes and changes and orientations and approaches that we will take as an industry, as a federated group of independent practitioners that are all working at different parts of this great move towards intelligence and intuitive, nimble, high velocity, but ultimately more rewarding experiences, both for authors and for customers. It's an exciting time, and thank you to everybody that has brought their perspectives to this incredible roundtable. Thank you, Nicole, Michael, Larry, and Mark, and thanks to all of you who are participating in the conversation in your organizations. Keep the dialogue, keep bringing together the conversations across your organizations and between different content technology vendors within the SI and integrator community. Let's keep moving the dialogue towards a smarter world.